Hello, I'm doing a book review, and the book I want to review is Usher's Passing by Robert R. McCammon. Now, Usher's Passing was published in 1984, and this is basically Robert McCammon's take on the Edgar Allan Poe story, The Fall of the House of Usher. And basically, the basic idea of the book is, what if when Edgar Allan Poe wrote his story, The Fall of the House of Usher, what if he actually based that off of a real family? And and the whole book follows the Usher family, and who, according to this book, is the family who inspired the Edgar Allan Poe story. And Edgar Allan Poe actually appears in the beginning of the book as one of the characters. Basically, the beginning of the book is set in the 1840s, and in the beginning of the book, there's a scene where a member of the Usher family goes to confront Edgar Allan Poe about the story he wrote, because you find out that Poe didn't necessarily get permission from the Usher family to write this story. But then it jumps ahead to present time, and in the book you find out that the Usher family is extremely wealthy, and you realize that the reason they're so wealthy is because they actually own a company that manufactures weapons and sells them to the government, and the government uses them as weapons of war. Now, the main character of the book is a man named Rix Usher, who is essentially the black sheep of the family. Like, you find out in the book that Rix really hates his family. Like, he hates the family business, and he realizes that all the money his family made off this weapons company is essentially blood money. And so and Rix, he's very much like anti-war, and you find out in the book that in the early 70s he actually embarrassed his family by appearing at an anti-war demonstration protesting the Vietnam War, and he actually got arrested. And so he's essentially the black sheep of the family. And you find out that when he was a child, his father actually used to beat him, and his father always rewarded his brother, and so he's essentially like the outcast of the family. And in the book you find out that Rix is a horror writer, and he's written a few books that have actually been pretty successful, but you find out that a few years earlier his wife killed herself, and ever since his wife killed herself, he hasn't been able to write a good book. And what happens is, in the book Rix finds out that his father is dying, and he then returns to his family home to see his father one last time. Even though he hates his father, he's going to pay respects to his father because his father is dying. But what happens is, when he returns home, he then gets this idea that he's going to write a book about the Usher family, and basically he's going to write this book to kind of get revenge on his family for the way they treated him. And also he feels like writing this book about the Usher family will kind of make up for his family's sins, and basically he wants to write a book and expose all of his family's dark secrets. And so what happens is, he ends up reading diaries written by his ancestors, and in the book Rix finds out all of his family's deepest and darkest secrets. But what happens is, Rix finds out that his family has essentially made a deal with the devil, and you find out that by making these weapons, his family is essentially doing the devil's work. And what happens is, also in the woods by the Usher's property, there is a demon called the Pumpkin Man, and this demon takes children. And what happens is, you do find out that there is a connection between the Pumpkin Man and the Usher family, and the book doesn't just follow the Usher family. The book also follows a young boy named New, who, what happens is New is this 15-year-old boy who lives in the woods, like he lives in this cabin in the woods with his mother, and what happens is New's younger brother gets taken by the Pumpkin Man, and in the book kind of combines fantasy with horror, and in the book, this kid New finds out that he actually has magical powers, like, he finds out that he's basically like a wizard or a warlock, and what happens is now New has to stop the Pumpkin Man, and the Pumpkin Man also has this creature with it called the Black Panther, which is kind of like this monster Black Panther creature, and what happens is you find out that there is a connection between the Pumpkin Man and the Usher family, but I don't want to give away what it is. But in the book you also follow a father and his daughter who you find out have been hurt by the Usher family. So the book doesn't necessarily follow just the Usher family. The book actually follows a bunch of different characters who are somehow connected to the Usher family, but but I thought Usher's Passing was a really cool book. Definitely, I've only read 4 books by Robert McCammon, but I would say my favorite book by Robert McCammon is Boy's Life, but I would definitely hold this up there with his books like Swan Song and Mine. I thought this was a really cool book, actually. It's a very interesting take on the Edgar Allan Poe story, and, and I liked how it combined fantasy and horror, and, because it does go into details about how this kid New is some kind of a warlock or a wizard, and in the book, New meets this old man who lives in the woods who calls himself the Mountain King, and it turns out that the Mountain King is also a wizard as well, and the Mountain King is the Mountain King knows a lot about the Pumpkin Man, and and all this is connected to the Usher family. But Usher's Passing I thought was a really cool book. I would definitely recommend this if you haven't read it. So yeah, that's my review on Usher's Passing by Robert McCammon, and bye.